I'm a mother of 2 daughters, and I live out in the country. My husband is a welder and really outgoing and charismatic guy, which means he has tons of friends that will periodically stop by to hang out with him. In fact, there are some friends he trusts enough to use the tools in his garage and stay at the house when he isn't home. Well, one late afternoon he was gone when I heard someone pull into the driveway. We also have 2 dogs, and they were going nuts with barking at the picture window in our living room. I looked out and saw a familiar-looking blue blazer and assumed my husband's friend, Bob, was over to use something from the garage or wait for my husband to get home. He hadn't knocked on the door, so I figured they'd already talked to each other about it. No big deal. But the dogs would not stop barking and growling, which just didn't seem right because they knew Bob. So I looked more closely out the window and realized that there was a man lingering near the garage, but he was definitely not Bob. In fact, I'd never seen him before. I decided to take my dogs and go outside to see who he was and what he wanted. He told me he lived down the street and knew my husband. He was very friendly and began telling me about how he had to move out of his house because he and his wife were divorcing. He seemed quite familiar with my husband and even asked about our dog, Pepper, who had passed away a few months prior. Pepper was a very smart and protective dog and could be scary if he thought harm would come to me or my family. He didn't realize that Pepper died and really seemed genuinely apologetic about it. Meanwhile, I noticed that my dog, Shadow, still hadn't settled down around this guy. He wouldn't let him pet him, and the hair on his back was sticking straight up. He would intermittently growl during our conversation too. This was really odd for him, and I was pretty confused because this guy seemed really nice. After chatting for a while, he asked for my husband's number so he could call him. That was a red flag for me, because if my husband wanted someone to have his number, he'd give it to him. So I told the man that I'd give him a call right then. I called my husband in front of him, who suddenly looked a little nervous. I explained to my husband that Jim from down the street was at the house to visit him. Immediately, my husband told me to tell Jim to get off her property and never return. This scared the crap out of me because, like I said, my husband is a really friendly and hospitable guy, usually. He told me to make the man leave, and he was on his way home. I ended up making some excuse to Jim. For some reason, I just couldn't say something so mean after he'd just been so friendly and polite to me. And he backed up right away, suddenly quick to leave. My husband arrived home a short time later and explained that Jim was a severe crack addict who had been stealing from all of his neighbors' garages. His wife threw him out because of this, and he's been desperate for cash to support his habit. He was probably scoping out what he could steal from my husband's garage after seeing what obstacles, my dogs, would be in his way. To think he could have harmed me or my kids makes me furious. He seemed nice, and I felt like an idiot for not realizing the truth. But I've learned my lesson now. If someone comes over that I don't know while my husband is out, I just call him right away. Three days ago, my old man went out of town. First night, I heard what I assumed was a large critter. As of 4:13 a.m. when I post this, I think they're gone for good. This is a long but recent and true story. I want to say I'm glad they left or knew I was armed and it's not worth dying or killing. Whatever reason. 2 nights ago, I was awoken by my dog between 11 and 3 a.m. at the most. He kept near me when I got up and made a low, aggressive growl facing out of my room, but kept close to me. He has never done this before. I've worked with canines for years. This gave me a gut feeling, and then I heard it. Someone talking. In my yard, no more than 20 feet by the sounds. Low mumbling and bad whispering. I was blaring Return of the King, yes extended. I need to add that I have childlike hearing at my age for context. If you speak in a 1-floor home with 2 doors closed at a whisper, I can make words out. He went quiet when I opened a drawer too loud to grab my hidden 380, chambered around and noticed a shadow passing by light outside the blurred window. Home was clear, all doors locked. Nothing odd so far, but my dog peeled out. I held my flashlight in one hand, went his way, and called him to the other side. He was gone. I guess they knew I was home and ran on foot. I went around but thought, okay, I'm good. Well, Florida continues to be Florida. Night 3. My dog does this again in the same time frame, waking me up. At this rate, I I just got the 12 gauge. My dog was acting far more protective and gave me the dog body language for major threat, need the pack, can't handle alone type of thing. I froze for a moment. 2 people now? Fuck, this is not good. They must intend to violently take whatever they could be after. There was one new guy and guy 1. I can't risk getting a look. At this rate, they mean business and had to be armed to scope out a place with a ring. 60 pounds of a muscle dog and my grown ass with a lifetime of handling guns. In the yard around 2:30 a.m. for a second night, they knew I and my dog were home, but clearly had a goal. This time, voices were behind the home. My dog then pulled out a fucking Leroy Jenkins. He gave off the most aggressive, loud bark I've ever seen any dog do and ran to the wall. I ran to his side and yelled, "Fuck them up, they're dead men." Now shit's clicking for me. This was planned and professional. I checked every inch of the property with a shotgun. My dog was worked up and spooked, but calming. I'm buying him a steak for this one, and a good one. I went inside. I literally kept that gun on me, chambered and in reach of my bed. I barely slept. On day 4, I did a bit of looking around for misplaced or slightly moved objects, or scratched locks. Yep, one trash can by the gate was rotated 180 degrees, with the handle facing me, not the wall as it's always been placed. I crushed a few dead twigs as I went back. The head chair was turned and moved to the right, a clearly odd thing as that table set is symmetrical, so it's glaringly obviously out of place if you lived there. Whatever your goal was, let's not meet. Sorry, I suck at storytelling, but I'll do my best. First, some background. I'm a 22-year-old college senior about to graduate and start medical school in the fall. This happened when I was in elementary school, so over a decade ago. Over the summer way back then, my mom sent me to YMCA summer camp. I enjoyed going in every day and hanging out with all my friends from school who also went to the camp, but I especially loved one of the counselors, Mike. Mike was always sitting in the same spot when I got dropped off in the morning, and he would see me walk in and put a huge smile on his face. We would always sit there and play cards or some other board game in the morning while all the kids were arriving. Once the day's scheduled activities started, Mike would always be the counselor in charge of my group. He would always be just close to me. As a kid, I didn't know that was weird. I really liked him. As I said, I thought he was a really cool guy as an 8-year-old. Fast forward a couple of years, I don't remember the exact time frame. My mom, my younger sister, and I were at a state park in the area, about half an hour from where we lived. We had just gone down there to hang out for the day. We had a great time on the playground, walking around the trails, etc. And then we head back to the car. When we arrived back at the car, my mom was getting my sister all strapped in and ready for the ride home, and I was getting situated in the back seat as well. Now, our car was in the parking lot, obviously, and there really weren't tons of people at the park that day. The lot was pretty much empty, so when I noticed that there was a car parked right next to our car, I was like, that's weird. But again, I was a kid and didn't really think anything of it. Why would this car park literally be right next to us when I can see 50 empty spots from right here? Anyways, my mom is getting my sister and me all ready for the trip back home. Suddenly, the driver's door of the other car opens and out pops Mike. My mom recognized him, so she just said, "Hi," and continued back to what she was doing. Mike says, "Do you mind if I take a couple of pictures of I am a grocery bag?" He's gotten so grown, and I want to remember this. My mom obviously goes, "No, you're not going to do that." Shuts the driver's door and locks the car, and we leave. As we're leaving, I can see Mike trying to take a photo through the windows of the car. A couple of years later, when I was a bit older, my mom told me more details about Mike. My mom at the time was pretty high up in a company that pairs kids with adult mentors. Adults would apply to be paired with a kid. So, my mom starts telling me about how one day they were going through the applications to be a mentor, and Mike's name popped up. Apparently, someone else had interviewed Mike and recommended him for approval into the system. My mom, on the other hand, essentially vetoed it because she obviously had known Mike from these other experiences, and she got a weird vibe from him that something was off with him. So finally, we're watching the news at dinner one day a bit later. They start sharing a story about a man who was arrested, and they show the mugshot of the man, Mike. The charge? Thousands of images and videos of you-know-what on his computer that he both had made and was just in possession of. He actually was caught by Border Patrol as he was acting weird when he was trying to cross into Canada, and they decided to search his car, and they found a bunch of it on his computer. They alerted the US authorities, who then searched his house, and they found a ton more of it. I am 100% confident that he wanted to add me to the collection. If not for my mom having a great mother's instinct and the Canada-US border, it might have happened. Summer camp counselor Mike, let's not cross paths again. I was in Tesco, a generic wholesale shop we have here in England, and just innocently browsing the DVD section on my own. I was looking at the new releases, but not paying too much attention. My friend's parents were away on holiday, and she was having a sleepover, girls' night at hers, and had asked me to get a scary horror film for us. While looking, I heard, "So you like movies, huh?" I turned around and saw this guy who looked around 70, with greasy hair and socks and sandals on. Yeah, that kind of made me smirk. I said back, "Yup," and proceeded to carry on down the aisle. He followed me and started talking about films he watched, what I should get, etc. I said, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And he was reaching the end of the aisle. I'm a small girl, 23, but I must have looked younger as I didn't have that much makeup on. And I have long dark brown hair. The old guy was still following me, asking where I'm going, and if I had a boyfriend, and even if I like oral, and if I'm alone. That was it for me. I turned around and looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Fuck off, you hillbilly pervert," and walked off into the shop. I've gotten some ice cream and some popcorn, and now I was in my car driving to my friends while singing along badly to the radio. I'm not sure how long it had been there, but I noticed a silver pickup taking the same turns as I was. I was only doing 50 and a 70, and they could have overtaken me if they wanted, but stayed right behind me. My friends passed me, but I could take the next turn and double back through the back roads. I didn't indicate anything, which is something I regret now, and I realized this was very stupid of me. I took the turn and drove as fast as I could to her house. I saw the car take the same turn as I did. She lives in a cul-de-sac, and I parked my car down the road, not in front of hers, and ran to her garden. She always keeps the gate open. I didn't know how long it would have been for her to open the main door, so I chose the garden. I locked the gate behind me and knocked on the back door. After being let in and called a weirdo and a peeping Tom, I got handed some wine. There was a knock at the door. My friend opened it. It was the creep from Tesco with his silver car in the middle of the road. He was standing there saying something along the lines of, his daughter's car has broken down and she has rung him from a house along the street, and he's here to pick her up. Is she here? He described me, and described what I was wearing. My friend said no and shut the door and locked it. I hadn't told him about the creepy guy, but she said there was something off about him and knew he wasn't my dad. No way I would have known him. We saw through the curtain that he went to every other house in the cul-de-sac. He would get turned away, then go to the next one. We later found a piece of paper in a plastic sandwich bag left on my car windshield. It said, "Where did you go? I wasn't finished with you."